Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast. My name is Jackie and I'm the host. Today I'll be speaking with Nicky, who lost his father at an early age, immigrated from Wales to Canada at 24 years old, and is now here to talk about his newfound freedom. Hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for coming on to the Hold On to Your Heart project. How are you doing, Nicky?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. How are you?
Really good. I'm glad that you're here. Do you want to start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name's Nicky, obviously, as you know. I was born in South Wales, a little mining village in Wales, in Great Britain. Very special little town. Fun little fact about my town is the place where the NHS was started, the National Health Service. A local MP by the name of Aneurin Bevan. So that's a really fun fact about where I'm from. Home to the second largest clock in the UK, apart from Big Ben. And yeah, grew up there in a little place called Tredegar. And it was an old little mining village. And yeah, I grew up with my mother, my father, and a brother. Yeah.
And you've ended up here in Canada.
Yes, I ended up in Canada. I came here in 2011. I came here on a working holiday visa. I came here and started working in one of the coal mines. I was only going to stay for a year. I kept renewing my visa. I would take a year, then another year, then another year, and then I ended up applying for my residency. I got that, and then I've renewed that a few times, and I'm still here, still working in the same job.
Still working at the mine.
Still working at the mine, doing different things, progressed over the years. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I ended up staying in Canada, was the employment is not too good in Wales. Tradespeople are kind of being pushed out, and my town specifically is a very industrial place, factories, lots of hard-working men, but jobs are hard to come by, and everybody outprices each other in the workforce. So yeah, it's really hard to get a job. I've only ever had four to five jobs, but yeah, each one of the jobs I was kind of made, I was kind of laid off, or I wasn't kept in the jobs. The industries which I was working in was collapsing. So yeah, probably one of the main reasons I wanted to come to Canada was the work opportunities. So yeah, happy with my choice.
So cool that you're here.
Thanks.
And that you stayed. So yeah, on this podcast we tend to just jump right into it, and the title being Hold On to Your Heart. When you think of that, what do you think of?
So I've thought long and hard, and I've listened to a lot of people say their reasons basically for holding on to your heart, and I think that I've always looked at it that everyone has a different reason and a different meaning behind those, like holding on to your heart. And my interpretation of that would be, you have to be versatile with your heart. In everything is circumstantial, so there's been times in my life where I've had to drastically hold on to my heart, and there's times where I've had to let my heart go, and there's times where I've had to listen to my heart, and there's times where I've really had to listen to my heart, but in a more I would say just a different way. So for me, it's about being versatile and being open to change. And there are loads of a lot of situations that I've been in where my heart has played a big part in my decision making, and I I feel like now more than ever in my life, I actually, it's a good time in my life now to ask me that question, because I feel like I've kind of come full circle and I have lots of experiences with my heart, and I feel like now my heart is like fully grown.
That's really sweet. Is there a situation, like when you talk about being versatile, like that comes to mind for you?
I think the biggest one for me would be the first one, the first biggest event, I would say, in my life. I grew up with my mother, my father, my brother. Up until the age of 7, everything was just fine. Everything, I have nothing but good memories about my upbringing. From 0 to 7, I had an older brother to look up to, who I've worshipped my entire life. He's the kind of older brother who's better than you at everything, but he's never made me feel inadequate to what I can do. So he's like the perfect kind, even to this day, he's the perfect older brother. And my mother was great, always supportive, always, I call her the domesticated goddess. She cooks, cleans, she can work, she can get stuck in any kind of situation. And my father, who sadly passed away when I was 7, so I think that was the first time in my life where I had to hold on to my heart, which I didn't really know I was doing at the time. He had a road accident. He had a bike. He was riding a bike and he got hit by a lorry, a semi truck. He was driving really slow, and he got clipped, and he kind of got dragged for a little bit, and he was okay, and he made it to hospital, and he was talking in the ambulance, and he had his accident on, I believe it was the 9th of October 1992, and he later on passed in hospital from septicemia and a little cut that he had in his leg. He caught an infection in his thigh, and he passed away on the 26th of October 1992.
Do you remember the day?
I remember the day. I remember it step by step. There's a pivotal moment during that day. Me and my best friend Kevin Lewis, we were in my mother's garden, and in the UK you wear school uniforms. So I had my shirt, tie, jumper. I had a green jumper on with a green tie, and my friend Kevin had a red jumper with a red tie, and we were both sat on the lawn in my mother's garden holding a rugby ball, and we were waiting for my father to come home to take us to rugby training for the first time. And we all heard the sirens going past our house on the highway, and I can remember it, I can hear it right now, and that was 32 years ago, and we didn't know where it was going. Like we could hear all the noise and the sirens, obviously, and we all looked at each other and we thought, I wonder where that's going. And I can remember, and yeah, like within the hour, I remember seeing a policeman and a policewoman coming down the street. They went into our house, and my mother went down the hospital, and then later that day we went down the hospital, but they pretty much put my father into an induced coma then. But yeah, that was it. He never woke up after that. So, but I can remember the day very, very specifically. And then later on that night, he was actually riding from one town to another town, which was about a 5-10 minute bike ride. My town, Tredegar, to his hometown, Ebervale. He was going over to pick up some kidney beans from his allotment, which is a garden in another town, and he picked up the bag of kidney beans, in a carrier bag, came over, got hit. And then I remember that night later on, going into the shed, like really late into the night. I would never go into this shed because I was always scared about my shed. I was really scared about the shed. And I remember going into there. I can't remember if I was fearful before or after, but I remember going into there and seeing his bike, and it was all bent and there was blood. And I remember seeing the bag of kidney beans on the handlebar. And that stuck with me. But obviously over time you just deal with it. And I think that was,
as a young boy, what did it look like to be holding onto your heart at that age?
well, I was very fortunate. I know it's crazy to say, but like the family structure that I had around me, I was very lucky. And I was the youngest of all my siblings, my cousins. So there was me, my brother, then 2 doors up I had my other 3 cousins with my mother's twin sister and her husband. So I had this support around me. I had my grandfather, my 2 nans were alive. I had my other uncle, my mother's brother, and his son and daughter and his wife, and I was the youngest, and they smothered me, and I felt it, and I felt like I felt like there's a lot of attention in those moments I just seen it as support. Mm-hmm. I just seen it as love, and the entire community kind of came around me, right? Like there wasn't many big moments like that with other people as far as I can remember growing up. So I was kind of the first, like in school, that's the kid who his father died. Like there was like chit chat, and I remember being off school for about, I can't really remember, but it was about 6 to 8 months, I think.
How do you think you took the attention?
I was seen as, I think, a bit of a golden, like I was the golden egg, right, in the nest, like because I was young, and I was still classed as a baby. They used to say, "Oh, the baby." I was 7. I can remember them all saying it. But I received all the gifts, and I received all the love and attention, and I had a big brother, right? So I think that made it a lot easier for me. Having a bigger brother, an older brother, someone who he provided like a father, right? Mm-hmm. Like love, attention. I didn't have to figure anything out. I would just go to my brother, and he would just give me whatever I needed at all times.
What do you think is like significant in the passing that has equated to like the person that you are today?
I think the passing would definitely I think when I was little, I was held. I feel like I was held back. I think it was through fear, or I could always get a day off school, or I could always get what I wanted, or like someone would always give it to me, and I feel like it was always easy for me to get what I wanted, but all I ever wanted was just like a little, I always wanted a job in a supermarket, or I wanted a job like in a shop, and I feel like I was always held back a little bit, and I think it was fear, like from my mother, or I feel like I was just slightly kind of held back, and it probably led to I always wanted to move away, or go traveling, or go somewhere, or do something big, and I think it could have contributed to wanting to explore a little bit more, like the world, or new experiences. So yeah, I think that's how that kind of impacted me, I would say. I did have something else to say, but I lost my train of thought.
Do you think that, like, that's the reason you were maybe being subtly held back in things, was because of, like, the fear of your father, or, like, his passing? Or was that, do you think that was bound to happen regardless of the passing?
Maybe. Like, who knows? Like, I always think to myself, like, what could have it looked like if your father was around,
the
right?
influence of a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, would it have been different? Like, I think it would have. I think it would be naive not to think anything else, but it kind of shapes you, especially at that young age, and not actually realizing the impact until recent, right? Like, not actually doing the work and kind of figuring out, putting little pieces together and figuring out the impacts of what went on. And
so you feel like, you know, like making a move to Canada, like you weren't aware of, like, hey, maybe this is because I feel like I need to push harder now to get out there because I felt held back. Like, that was more like a more recent revelation for you?
I think so. I think over the recent years, there's an acceptance here of my own need and want to explore other things and not kind of just stick in that kind of cycle back home. Home is there, right? Like, it's not going anywhere. I like returning home and going to visit people, but I just feel like there's more opportunity out there for me, and I just feel like I'm living like a second part of my life being in Canada.
How is how's the grief now around your father?
It'll come up, like this year, come up probably more than other years. I definitely felt a little something more, not too sure why. It depends on the years. Some years, like, it's been 32 years, right? And it is true. My mother has all those old sayings, and they all kind of come to fruition now with, like, I believe what she's like, just those little sayings, like, time is a healer. And it's true. Things do get easier over time. It doesn't go away, but it definitely, for me anyway, gets a little bit easier with time to kind of deal with, and knowledge, right? Like, putting in the work and kind of figuring out how it has shaped me and how it has made me who I am. And I it's a good realization to have.
You're a father now too.
I am a father now, and I feel like that have definitely shaped the way I father my children. Very, very hands-on, very, I don't believe it as a sacrifice. I believe it's a privilege and an honor to be a dad, and it's something that I take seriously.
So has there been, like, a moment with your own kids when, like, something that stands out of, like, oh, I wish I could have this with my father, or just some kind of, like, healing moments of, like, you know, being a father and knowing that yours no longer is with you?
Obviously, the obvious is, like, oh, I wish he could see him. That's the big one. It's like, when I explain to him and I talk to him about him, they're like, who's he? Like, and they're young, right? Like, they don't totally understand it yet, and being so far away, it's not as in their face, right? Like, they don't quite understand what is happening, really. Like, I try to explain to them about him as if he's Santa Claus. He doesn't exist, right? Like, you don't see him, you know. But they see pictures, and I try to bring him up in conversations, and I always tell them, and I always remind them. And I think like, my fondest memory is me with my father is playing and drawing and doing just connection, right? Love. I can always remember sitting on his lap, and I feel like I've instilled that with my kids, and they just cling to me, right? Like they really it's everything I thought it would be like with them. Like I try my best, you know.
It's really nice. So, coming to Canada, were there things that you were surprised? Like, what was the biggest difference for you coming to Canada, aside from the employment piece?
Well, I think I always wanted to travel, right? Like I always wanted to go somewhere. My big thing was like, oh, I'm gonna go to Australia, somewhere warm and somewhere more tropical. And then as soon as I got here, I thought, oh, this is it. Like I like the snow, I like the elements, I like the freedom, the ability to fish, eat the fish, cut firewood, have a fire, have a log fire at home. Like I never, like all this is completely foreign, right? Like, and then there was the job opportunity, and if you don't like that job, you can go and do another job, and you can make money cutting firewood, and like it's very restricted back home, like kind of with food, and I think not so much food, like hunting or like being able to heat your own house, and I just find that so I find it so like tribal, you know. Like being able to, like I'm just fascinated with hunting and fishing and cutting firewood, but yet I've never explored it myself, you know. Like I've never really jumped into it. I have dipped my toes in here and there, but that is appealing to me. Like, and obviously the weather, the elements, like.
You like them all?
I love
seasons.
I love everything. I love the fall, the winter, and it never stops out here, right? You just dress for it. People back home think you're crazy when you send them a picture of -10, and at work it can get to -40, you know. So there's something to it, right? It's like the struggle. I kind of like the struggle, and I just think it makes you like a tougher person, right? To get up and scrape snow off your windshield in -40 or -30, and you know, there's like an edginess to the driving, and you know, you're always alert. I just think it builds a character, right, in people, especially in this area. I just love it. I love.
Is there not, like, I know you say like home is always there and stuff, but I mean, is there like not a bit of grief that comes along with that, being like here for as long as you have? Or
yeah, there's grief, there's guilt. Like I have a lot of guilt with my niece. She was 3 when I left, and now she's 17. She's driving, so I missed her. I missed 14 years of her growing up, and she was my little buddy for 3 years, and she didn't leave my side. She would sneak upstairs and wake me up on a night shift, after a night shift, and she would know that I was there because my shoes were at the bottom of the stairs, and she would call up the stairs. And those 3 years, I think about it quite a lot, right? I feel a lot of guilt about that, and especially when someone passes away. Like one of my friends passed away 2 weeks into being out here, and a family member could die, like my grandmother died, or someone could die, and that's guilt, and you know, you have to deal with a double kind of guilt, because you feel guilty for not being there, or guilty for not showing up. And
how do you manage it?
I always think, what would they do if they were in my position? I feel like if they could if they know what I was doing and they know how I'm feeling inside and what I want to do with my life, like I think they would be supportive, you know. I think like who's to say my niece would never go traveling, or I think my nan was Italian, and I think like if she was alive, or like I remember talking to her and she's like, good for you, like you're doing the right thing, like stay out there, and then it come like the biggest thing is my mother, right? Like the toughest thing is my mother. She lived on her own since the death of my father, and she never met anyone. I've never known her to have a boyfriend, or I've never seen her. She had 2 boys and she raised us, and she had 3 jobs sometimes. She drove around in old beaters. She kept, and I always had everything, right? Like I had a roof, I had food, I had the basic things that I needed, and she just had the love of 2 people, right? Like it was almost like I didn't even need another parent. She just had everything under control. And that's not taking anything away from my brother. Like I'm aware that I know people lose parents and then they don't have someone to fall back on, but I had a brother. But my mother was really, she still is, she's kind of like the rock of the whole family, right? Like she kind of keeps it all together. So yeah.
Bringing it back to like holding on to your heart, and you said it was like versatility and sometimes holding on really tight and sometimes having to let go. Do you want to share a little bit on the letting go parts?
Yeah, well, I think recently the biggest one over the past few years was going through a separation with 2 children, and for long periods of that relationship, I was definitely white knuckling and holding on to something that needed to be let go of way before it actually happened. And I think that's when I think alcohol started coming into my life in a negative way. I was always going to it was always like a party, right? Like the lifestyle back home, and it was always it was like booze was always like a seen as a good thing, and I never really abused it as much as I did in recent, well, the last couple of years of my drinking. And I again, it goes back to the like the work you put in with trauma, for example, of a death. You put the work in after, and then you realize after a lot of work that you were self-medicating a pain. I feel like I was saying yes to a lot of things, and I was just trying to create peace and love, and I was creating resentment and hatred. And there's a term that I heard once, I can't remember who, or it was something like most men live quiet lives of silent desperation, or something along those lines. I can't remember it word for word, but when I heard that, I was like, that's me. And I was not being myself. I was not the person I wanted to be. I was not happy, and I was just there because I had children, and I thought what I was supposed to do was to stay there, and it just made me an unhappy person. And then once I finally stepped away and let go, and realized that sometimes you do have to let go of your heart or a situation, that it can bring you more joy and happiness. And yeah, I'll be coming up to almost 2 years sobriety. I made the decision after an incident, and which I'm kind of glad. I always look at it as like, it doesn't define, like, all these incidents or all these moments that have happened in my life, they don't define me now. And like I've made mistakes in the past, and like everyone else, right? Like nothing, like I'm not a bad guy or anything, but I definitely wanted to. My goal is to create a life and a safe place for my children, and that was my ultimate goal, really. But that's what I went into getting sober thinking, and now I don't feel like that anymore. It's my sobriety, and it's what I want for me. They get, or anyone else gets, me, a sober me, a me that wakes up in the morning with no regrets, or you can wake up feeling fresh. And I think that is the
that's the ultimate gift.
that's the gift.
The ultimate blessing. Feeling fresh.
Feeling fresh.
Well, sobriety looks good on you.
Thank you,
And
Jacquie.
it's a huge accomplishment, and you should be really proud.
Thank you.
And was it, like, you talk about this incident, did you want to shed any more light on the incident, or did you want to?
I think it's best that we don't actually go into too much depth, but I've dealt with them in the right way, I would think. I feel like I have done good have only come out of it for me.
What does that look like? The good?
The good is,
Apart from the sobriety, I guess, or what?
I
Elaborate.
think for me, my own mental health, for example, is better than ever, I would say. I was taking antidepressants. I no longer take antidepressants. I started working on my health, my mental health. I had the ability to do that for the first time in my life. And yeah, I think the good that comes out of that is all from a low point, right? From a turning point. And yeah, I'm really happy and really optimistic about the future.
It's nice to hear. Do you find, like, is mental health a thing back in Wales? Is it, I mean, maybe you haven't been there for a while, but, like, do you feel like, do you think it would have been a lot harder to get sober and deal with mental health issues back in Wales as opposed to here? Yes,
I would have. I don't think there would have been for me. I don't think for me it would have been difficult to. I think I would be in a different mindset, right? Like, now I've seen what it's like to live somewhere else, and then look back at where I used to live. Is kind of looking in on a bubble, right? Mm-hmm. Like I know what's available now, a different kind of life or a different mindset. I've already lived that mindset, and I think I think you can get sober anywhere, right? But I know people there who call me daily. I know people who struggle giving up booze. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult, and it's a struggle, and they call me and they say, how do you do it? And I tell them how I do it, and I talk them through it, and I said, that's what I do. I make a choice every day not to drink, and everything that comes out of that or everything good now I have in my life is from not drinking. And I've never been like a massive drug user or anything, so I've never really had that part of an addiction or anything to deal with. But I definitely got to a point where I needed to drink, and then I would wake up in a sluggish, depressive state of mind, and I wasn't 100% with my children, and that's hard to see. And I would show up, I would be there, but I wouldn't feel right. I would just carry this pain and this I just did not want to be in that situation anymore. And
what do you think gave you enough courage to decide differently?
I think I talk to my family a lot. There was a turning point. There was an incident which was kind of it was like a good reminder that like I need to figure this out. And I am grateful for that low point, that turning point. That I'm grateful for that right now. And I some people need that. Some people can wake up and say, I don't want to drink today. I've had enough. It could be a death of someone. It could be watching someone struggle with alcoholism. It could be multiple things, but mine was that, and I feel blessed that it happened to me. So yeah.
You carry any weight around anymore about the situation, or
just I feel like there's no longer like a traditional kind of upbringing, I guess, for my children, but I never grew up in a traditional upbringing. I grew up with a single mother, and one way I look at it is if my father lived down the street in a different house with a different person, I would take that today. I would be the happiest guy alive. If that would mean that my father was alive and happy, that's the way I look at it. And I don't carry no weight. I feel like what I feel like right now is worth everything. And it took me a long time. It took me 8 years to figure out that I was the top of the pyramid. You have to, it's the famous saying, you put your oxygen mask on yourself before you help somebody else. And I didn't do that for the entire relationship previously. And I was always fourth or fifth in a pyramid of people, and that was no good. And there was no wonder I was going to self-destruct or not feel too good. I wasn't allowed to feel any other way, really.
Aside from your sobriety and really taking care of yourself on that level and your mental health, like what are other ways that you put yourself first today?
I feel like my sobriety, my mental health is, I have a good, really, really good handle on it. I am allowed to flourish now. I'm allowed to be myself. I'm allowed to obnoxiously be myself, which is a freedom, it's freeing. It's like a release. I think one of the biggest things is I get a lot of support from people back home. I get a lot of support out here too, right? Like I've worked in the same job for 14 years. I have great friends in work, great people around me, and the biggest one is I would say is my mother, right? Like that would be like my goal in life is to, my goal, one of my goals is to have my children feel about me the way I feel about her. And if they could experience that connection, that the you don't even, she doesn't even always say the right thing, or she doesn't always tells me what I want to hear, but she always picks up. And that would be my advice to anyone, any single person in the world going through anything, like a death or having a hard time with, you lose a job. Try and find anyone that you can try and have a little bit of communication with. That's why I answer the phone to so many people today, like, because I know how important that is to me. It is vital for me to reach out and talk things through with anyone. I'm an open book. I'll talk to anyone about anything, and I've come to enjoy it now. So yeah.
Look at you on a podcast.
I'm on a podcast now, telling my story. Yeah.
What would you tell your younger self, like with everything that you know now? What would you tell 7-year-old Nicky who just lost his father?
I would tell. I didn't expect I would end up here, right? Like, I just thought I would fall into the same kind of thing. Going to watch football, drinking every weekend. But it is okay. Like, it is okay, and I do have a solid kind of backbone behind me, right? Like, family and home, they ain't going anywhere, right? Like, they're there and they're always going to be there. So I'm super grateful every day that I have that behind me. But it's still tough, right? Because they're so far away. And but yeah, I would just tell him that everything's going to be all right. Like, go and experience things. Don't go anywhere you don't want to go. Like, go to all these places. Like, I've been to so many places with watching football, traveling to different places. I've kind of seen everything I want to see, like, but I'm just in the middle now of chapter 2, right? Like, writing a new list, writing new goals.
Is there something I haven't asked you or you haven't shared about that you'd like to share today on the podcast?
Well, I was in a place after a certain incident where I just thought everything was over, right? Like, I felt like ending it all. And I never thought I could get to that point. And I look back at it now, and I juggle with sadness and depression. I think there was some sort of depression in there. But I honestly believe I was going through a sad period as well. So I try not to define it. I just put it down as the experience of, it was a hard time. It was a hard thing to go through. And people go through hard times, and people make mistakes, and people mess up, and it doesn't define you. Those actions, those one incidents, they don't define you as a person. And you can bounce back. You can bounce back, and sometimes you have to. Like, I had to bounce back for my children at the time. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that I would find what I found in sobriety. I did not. I just thought I'd stop drinking and I would just continue living the same life, possibly feeling the same way. And I gained so much. I've gained everything. And yeah, my life have done a complete 180.
Is there something like, we may have already covered this, but like, what's the number one gain that, I think it was your mental health.
But it is, right? And I don't know if I can say that, like, but I want to say it. Like, my greatest thing through it all is finding someone who I've never felt this way before. I've never been in this situation. I've never felt like this. I've had to hold on to my heart a few times, good and bad. Like, I got to pinch myself sometimes. Like, I wasn't expected to be a success story, and I wasn't expected to bounce back the way I did and be who I am now, potentially moving on and doing other things and having more things. And
what do you think is like the highlight of your new relationship?
I would say the companionship. The companionship and the things in common, the like-mindedness, new things. It's exciting, and I think that, yeah, I've never experienced that before, you know. Like, I've only ever had like 3 girlfriends, so, you know, and I just like stability, and I like where I'm at. I feel comfortable and safe, and it's real.
So if there's one step from not liking how you feel and not liking where you're at to liking where you're at and liking how you feel, what is the first step for someone?
I think the first step is try and find out the problem before you get yourself into trouble, because it takes a split second to get into trouble and it takes years to get out. And my advice would be, walk away and just get out of there as quick as you can, as safe as you can, with no drama. Be courageous. Don't expect things to go your way, but be courageous enough to make the move before things kind of go south.
Go when you know you should go, and
Go
not
when
wait
you know.
till something drastic happens.
Yeah, that would be my advice. Don't hold on.
What if it's too late? What if someone, I guess you said it does and can and will change and get better.
If it does go wrong, like in my situation, then it's all about just putting one foot in front of the other foot, and you've got to keep going. And every day I used to think about my children, and when I was in the depths of it, in the early days when it was really tough, and I wanted to give up, and I wanted to go back home, and I had lots of opportunities to do both, and I just kept going forward, kept trudging the road, and it does get better. It is sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and it's things do get better if you just, you know, you can kind of, and I understand that it's different for people, right? Like, it's all circumstantial. We don't know what kind of circumstances people are in, and I worked hard on getting to where I am now. I done a lot of self work. I done a lot of work. I went to 6 or 7 different types of classes. I went to an anger management class. I went over 50 counselling sessions. I done so many different courses, and I just wanted to develop as a person, and I used the time, or these past couple of years, I've used this time to become a better and a more useful person. And now I show up for people, and now people reach out to me. Like before this interview, I just got somewhere to live. So I got someone a job yesterday, and I reach out and take calls to people who are struggling and going through hard times, and it's definitely, I'm in the giving back part, right? Like I'm at the nice part. Yeah.
Well, I've known you for a while now, and I think that you are an extraordinary man, and you have done a lot of work, and you have overcome a lot, and you are dealing with a lot, and you know, remain stable and level-headed, and, you know, a lot of relatable. And yeah, I just appreciate what you do in your giving back and who you help, and one of those people is me. You've been my rock over the last while, and yeah, you got a lot of love to give, and I appreciate you. So I'm thankful you came on the podcast and shared a little bit about yourself, and who knows, maybe there'll be a sequel.
Yeah, this is part one. I feel like we're waiting for a few signatures to really go for it on part two. So I'm excited for part two. It'll be pretty cool. But thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
You betcha.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm the producer of the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast. If you'd like to find out more about the podcast or listen to previous episodes, you can find us at holdontoyourheartproject.com or on social media and audio streaming platforms and YouTube at Hold On to Your Heart Project. Thanks for listening.